Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're not just entering Hogwarts, we're slipping behind the walls, where time itself sleeps. In this episode, we'll wander through the enchanted secrets left behind by the four founders. The courage glowing quietly in Godric's forgotten chamber. The wisdom still breathing through Rowena's moonlit library. The warm kindness resting in Helga's timeless kitchen. And the deep, echoing calm flowing beneath Salazar's silent lake. These are not stories from textbooks. These are the private dreams, ancient whispers, and hidden truths that shaped Hogwarts long before the first student walked its halls. Secrets kept alive only in the stillness of night, waiting for someone gentle enough, quiet enough to hear them. So before you get comfortable, take a gentle moment to like this video and subscribe. But only if these deep sleep history stories help you find peace, sleep better, or simply feel connected to our shared journey through time. Now, close your eyes, take a slow breath, and let the castle open its doors to you. One dream, one heartbeat, one whisper at a time. Good evening. And welcome back. Tonight, we return to a place where magic does not rush, where it breathes slowly, gently, like the calm rise and fall of your chest. As you settle into your pillow, let your body grow heavy and your thoughts soften. The world outside can wait, for now we walk quietly into a story older than Hogwarts itself. More than 1,000 years ago, on a lonely hill wrapped in Scottish mist, there lived a knight named Godric Gryffindor. People remembered his brilliant eyes, bright like embers stirred awake in a midnight hearth. They said his courage could silence storms, yet his gentleness could hush a frightened child. Tonight, we follow Godric not as a warrior, but as a dreamer. Imagine him wandering through an ancient forest at dawn, where the sunlight filtered through the leaves like slow-moving gold. Each step he took pressed softly into moss that remembered centuries. The air smelled of pine and cool stone, and somewhere in the distance a river whispered over pebbles polished smooth by time. Godric carried with him a simple hat, an old weather-worn thing woven from golden straw. It wasn't majestic, it wasn't enchanted, at least not in the beginning. But it was the hat he wore whenever he needed to think, deeply, honestly, quietly. He would sit beneath the towering oak whose roots curled like sleeping dragons, place the hat on his head, close his eyes, and listen. For Godric believed that every child who would one day step into Hogwarts carried a tiny spark of destiny. Some carried bravery like the steady beat of a drum. Some carried loyalty like warm embers. Some carried ambition as sharp as wind over stone.
and others carried wisdom that flickered like candlelight in a still room. But there was something else, something unspoken, something even the other founders did not fully know. Godric whispered his thoughts into the hat, gentle confessions of who he hoped the children would become, and prayers that they would always feel safe within the castle walls. Night after night, as he rested the hat beside him, his words soaked into its threads, into each woven strand of straw, until the hat began to glow faintly with quiet magic. Not magic of power, but magic of comfort. The kind that wraps around you like a warm cloak. The kind that steadies your heart when it trembles. Many believed the Sorting Hat's greatest secret was its ability to see a child's bravery or wisdom. But the truest secret, the one buried deep in its stitches, was its gift of peace. When a nervous child sat on the stool for the first time, the hat hushed their fears before speaking a word. It listened to their heartbeat, calmed their breath, and made them feel, perhaps for the first time, that they belonged somewhere. Now, as you lie here, you're not so different from those young students. You too carry stories, worries, hopes, and unanswered questions. Let them settle for now, like dust drifting down in a quiet library. Let the silence become soft around you, and imagine Godric placing that ancient, gentle hat upon your head, not to judge you, but to comfort you, to remind you that you are enough, that you belong, and that sleep is simply another kind of magic, one that arrives when you stop trying to chase it and finally allow it to come to you.
As the evening settled over the hills, Godric often returned to that quiet forest, letting the soft twilight guide his steps. The sky would fade from gold to gentle violet, and the first stars would appear, shy, trembling dots of light that looked as though they were listening to the world below. Godric walked slowly, not with the gait of a warrior, but with the calm presence of someone who understood that even the strongest must learn to rest. In his hand, the straw hat swayed gently, brushing against his cloak with a soft whisper. He had begun to notice something strange in the quiet moments before night fully arrived. When he placed the hat against his chest, he could feel a warmth that wasn't entirely his own. It was subtle, like the last warmth of sunlight holding on to a stone. One evening, as the wind moved through the pines, he sat beside a small campfire and placed the hat on the ground beside him. Flames danced slowly, unhurried, reflecting in his calm eyes. Godric rested his hand on the hat and said softly, "If only you could help the children feel at home, even when they are far from it." And as he whispered those words, the forest seemed to pause, just for a moment. Even the fire crackled more gently, as though listening. That night, Godric dreamt of children he had not yet met. Children with trembling hands,
children who carried fears in their hearts, children who wondered if bravery was something they were born with or something they had to discover. He dreamt of the first halls of Hogwarts, still unfinished, glowing with lantern light, while echoes of possibility floated through the corridors. The children in his dream approached the Sorting Hat one by one. Some held their breath, some squeezed their eyes shut, some simply wished to belong somewhere, anywhere. But each child found peace the moment the hat touched their head. Godric saw something else in his dream too. The hat wasn't just judging or deciding, it was listening to the quiet things their hearts were trying to say, listening to the fears they didn't dare speak, listening to the tiny sparks of courage hidden beneath everything else. When Godric woke, dawn was rising between the branches. Birds perched high above greeted the morning with soft, sleepy chirps. The hat still lay beside him, but something had changed. He didn't need to hold it to feel its warmth. The magic had rooted itself deep within it. Not a loud magic, not the kind that roared or flashed. This was a magic that exhaled, slow, gentle, patient, the kind that made a room feel safer without anyone knowing why. Godric carried the hat back to his cottage and placed it carefully on a wooden stand. He looked at it thoughtfully, sensing the responsibility growing inside him. If you are to help the children, you must know them, truly know them. So he began a quiet ritual. Every night before sleep claimed him, he sat by candlelight and whispered stories into the hat. Stories of kindness he had witnessed, stories of bravery that surprised him, stories of small, imperfect choices that shaped people more than grand victories ever could. The hat absorbed it all, every word, every sigh, every memory. And as it did, its magic deepened, becoming something far more precious than even Godric expected. One night, as the candle flickered low, Godric felt a strange calmness spread through the room. The hat, resting on the stand, seemed to glow faintly, a soft pulse of golden light that rose and fell like a sleeping breath. He smiled. The hat had found its purpose, and deep inside its woven threads, a voice began to form. A voice not of judgment, but of understanding. A voice that would one day whisper to frightened children, "You are safe, you belong, and you are more than you know." Now, as you lie here drifting deeper into stillness, imagine that same gentle warmth at your side. Imagine it softening your worries, easing the weight on your chest, and reminding you that you too are held by something quiet and kind.
There came a night when the moon hung low above the forest, pale and round like a quiet lantern. Godric walked slowly beneath its glow, feeling the cool silver light resting on his shoulders. The leaves whispered above him, brushing against one another with a softness that made the whole world feel half asleep. He had spent many evenings whispering memories into the hat, but tonight he sensed something different, something waiting. When he reached the old oak, the same one whose roots curled deep into the earth like ancient guardians, he stopped and placed the hat gently on its wide, moss-covered root. The air felt still, as though the forest itself was holding its breath. Godric knelt, resting one hand against the tree and the other on the hat. "If you truly carry my hopes, then show me that the children will be safe," he whispered. A breeze, barely more than a sigh, drifted through the branches, and then, so faintly he almost thought he imagined it, the hat hummed. It was not a sound meant for the ears, but for the heart. A warm vibration that slipped through the night like a thread of gold. Godric closed his eyes. The humming grew, not louder, but deeper, like the steady pulse of something alive. Then a voice, soft as breath, emerged within him. It did not speak in words, but in feeling. A feeling of quiet strength, of gentle protection, of belonging. For the first time, Godric understood the full truth. The hat was no longer merely an enchanted object. It was becoming a keeper of emotions, a guardian of every trembling thought children would carry into Hogwarts. And in return, it needed something from him. Not instructions, not power, but trust. Godric placed both hands around the hat, holding it close. The humming faded, leaving a silence so tender that it felt like a promise. He lifted the hat slowly and stood beneath the moonlight. "You will know their hearts better than anyone," he whispered. "Guide them well." And as he walked back toward his cottage, he felt as though the forest followed him, quiet, watching, approving. The foundation of Hogwarts was still taking shape. Stones were being carved, towers were slowly rising. The 4 founders had begun gathering artifacts imbued with pieces of their own magic. But Godric understood now that the sorting hat was different from a relic or a tool. It was a companion, a quiet witness to the future. Days passed, then weeks. The castle walls grew taller, echoing with the faint sounds of construction and distant laughter from the workers who camped nearby. Godric often stood on the scaffolding, gazing out at the hills, imagining the young faces that would one day fill the great hall. At night, while the others debated spells, charms, and the architecture of classrooms, Godric continued his ritual with the hat. One night, Rowena Ravenclaw passed by his chamber and paused at the door. She sensed the magic inside, the soft golden pulse, the hush of something growing. She didn't interrupt, she only smiled, understanding. For even wisdom bows to gentleness. The day finally came when the sorting hat spoke aloud for the very first time. Godric was alone, sitting by his candle, when he heard it, quiet, raspy, yet full of warmth. "I know them." The words were simple, but they filled the room like a soft embrace. Godric exhaled, relief and pride melting into one breath. Then he whispered, "You are ready. Ready to guide, ready to comfort, ready to teach the children that belonging is a kind of magic of its own." And now, as you lie here drifting deeper
Imagine that ancient hat resting beside you, not judging, not measuring, simply watching over you with the same gentle promise it gave to Godric. Feel its warm, silent magic settle around you like a cloak. Let it ease the thoughts that still cling to your mind. Let it soften the tightness in your breath. You too are safe. You too belong. And sleep, soft, silver, quiet, will find you soon.
High above the castle towers, far beyond where the lantern light fades into moonlit silence, there stood the tallest spire of Hogwarts. And at its peak lived a witch whose mind seemed woven from starlight itself. Her name was Rowena Ravenclaw, she of the midnight blue hair, the gaze as clear as constellations, and a presence so calm it could quiet even the wildest fluttering thoughts. Rowena was not feared, she was admired, in the way one admires a piece of wisdom that feels both ancient and kind. She walked through the halls with steps as soft as parchment turning, always carrying a book close to her heart, as though knowledge itself needed warmth. But Rowena's true sanctuary was not her chamber, nor her classroom. It was a hidden library, tucked behind an enchanted archway that opened only to those who sought truth with sincerity. To step inside was like entering a forest of quiet. Shelves rose impossibly high, stretching so far upward that they seemed to disappear into a gentle mist above. The scent of ink and old leather hung in the air, mingling with a faint touch of lavender from Rowena's robes. Some said the library had no walls, that when you walked deep enough, the shelves melted seamlessly into the night sky, and if you looked closely, you might see stars glimmering between the books. Rowena never confirmed this. She simply smiled, because some mysteries are meant to soothe, not solve. Late at night, when all of Hogwarts had fallen asleep, Rowena would climb the spiral stairs leading to her library. Each step echoed softly, as if whispering fragments of forgotten spells. When she reached the top, she lit a single candle. Its golden glow danced across the curved stone ceiling and brushed gently against the rows of ancient volumes. Rowena settled by the grand window, her favorite place. It framed the world like a painting, the sprawling courtyard below, the distant lake shimmering faintly in the moonlight, and beyond it all, the forbidden forest, breathing in slow, dark waves. She opened a book, not to study, but to feel. Her fingertips traced the inked lines the way one traces constellations on a clear night. She read slowly, savoring every word as though it were honey on her tongue. But what Rowena cherished most wasn't the knowledge itself. It was the peace that knowledge created. Every student who came to her found themselves speaking more softly, breathing more evenly, thinking more clearly. Rowena believed wisdom was not meant to sit heavily on the mind. It was meant to calm it, to guide it, to make room for rest. Sometimes she invited a troubled student to sit beside her at the window. She would hand them a book,
always one she chose with care, and let them read the first page in silence. She knew that when a mind shifts its focus, even slightly, the heart follows. Knowledge, Rowena would whisper, her voice like velvet sliding through quiet air, is the greatest treasure. But the way we share it, the intention behind it, that is what turns knowledge into comfort. And her students felt that, truly felt it. They said being near Rowena felt like walking into a library whose doors closed gently behind you, shutting out the noise of the world, a place where nothing demanded from you, a place where your thoughts slowed, softened, and finally settled. Tonight, she invites you to enter that same library, not with your hands, but with your mind. Imagine stepping across the threshold, feeling the cool stone beneath your feet. Imagine the warm candlelight, the hush of pages turning somewhere in the distance, the steady presence of Rowena waiting for you by the window. She doesn't ask anything from you. She simply lifts a book, one bound in deep blue leather, and opens it to the first page. Now, her voice drifts to you like a lullaby. Choose the most beautiful story in your mind and read it slowly, gently, one page at a time. And as she speaks, a sense of stillness spreads through you, soft, patient, and endlessly kind. As you walk deeper into Rowena's secret library, the floor beneath you feels impossibly smooth, polished by centuries of quiet footsteps. The candlelight softens into a warm haze, spreading like gentle breath across the rows of ancient books. Each shelf seems to lean toward you slightly, as if greeting a familiar traveler. Rowena moves with you, her robes trailing behind her like a whisper of midnight sky. She doesn't hurry. She never does. She walks at the pace of someone who understands that time stretches differently in places where the mind is allowed to rest. "Do you hear it?" she asks softly. At first, you think she means the sound of pages turning, faint and rhythmic somewhere in the distance. But then you notice something else, something quieter. The subtle rustle of ideas, thoughts shifting like autumn leaves. A hum of wisdom so delicate it feels like a lullaby woven into the air. Rowena smiles gently, as if she senses your realization. Knowledge, she whispers, has its own heartbeat. When you listen, you can feel it. She guides you to a narrow corridor between two towering shelves. The space is warm and cloaked in silence. A faint breeze slips through, a breeze that should not exist in a closed library. But here it carries the scent of ink and moonlight. At the end of the corridor is a reading nook carved directly into the stone wall. A deep window seat lined with velvet cushions, the color of twilight. Rowena gestures for you to sit. You sink into the velvet, the softness surprising, like sinking into memory itself. Outside the window, The world stretches endlessly, the sloping hills bathed in silver night, the lake lying as still as a sleeping giant, the forbidden forest shifting subtly like a creature dreaming beneath its canopy. Rowena takes a seat beside you. She holds a book that wasn't in her hands a moment ago, a book that seems to have appeared because you needed it. Its cover is a gentle shade of dusk, embossed with faint runes that flicker like distant stars. She opens it not at the beginning, but somewhere in the middle. The pages release a calm, delicate scent, like pressed flowers and rain. Every mind, she murmurs, tracing a line of text with her fingertip, contains its own storm. But within every storm, there is a single quiet place, a center, a sanctuary. She turns the book toward you. On the open page, the ink seems to shift, soft strokes blooming into shapes that resemble feathers, branches, constellations, dreams. It doesn't matter if you understand it. The page wasn't meant to be solved. It was meant to soothe. When the world grows loud, she continues, her voice dimming into a near whisper, you must return to the place where your thoughts grow slow. That is where rest begins. A gentle stillness fills the air around you. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of being held. The library breathes with you, its shelves rising and falling almost imperceptibly, as though syncing themselves to your heartbeat. Rowena closes the book and places it in your hands. It feels warm, as if it remembers the touch of many students who held it before you. What you read tonight, she says softly, is not meant to stay in the mind. It is meant to settle in the heart. She stands, her presence as steady as moonlight. With a soft wave of her hand, the bookshelves along the corridor begin to glow faintly, lighting a path deeper into the library. Come, she whispers. There is a part of the library few have ever seen, a place where stories go when they fall asleep. And as you rise to follow her, you feel the gentle weight of the book in your hands, warm, comforting, steady, guiding your thoughts into softer and softer shapes.
Rowena leads you deeper into the library, where the shelves grow farther apart, as though giving space for the air itself to dream. The candlelight that once glowed warmly now softens into a misty blue, turning the world into something half real, half remembered. This part of the library feels older, not in dust or decay, but in quietness. The silence here is gentle and thoughtful, like the pause between two pages turning. Rowena walks a little ahead of you, her silhouette outlined by the faint luminescence of the shelves. Her steps do not echo. They simply dissolve into the atmosphere, as though the library is absorbing her presence with affection. Stories, she whispers, grow tired too. She gestures toward a circular chamber that opens before you, its entrance framed by two carved ravens whose wings curl inward like protective hands. Inside, the space is vast,
yet soft. There are no shelves here, only floating books that drift slowly through the air, turning lazily as if asleep. Some glow faintly, others murmur words too soft to understand. You feel no fear, only wonder. Rowena steps beside one of the floating books and touches it gently. The book responds by settling into her hands like a bird returning to its nest. She opens it, revealing blank pages, completely blank. These, she explains softly, are the stories that have finished speaking. When their words have soothed all who needed them, they come here to rest. She guides you to sit in the center of the chamber. The floor is warm, like sun-kissed stone. Rowena kneels beside you, placing the blank book between you both. A mind is never truly empty. It simply turns its pages more slowly when it needs rest. She closes her eyes, and for a moment, the entire room breathes with her. The drifting books slow their rotations. The blue light settles. Even your thoughts grow softer, like feathers drifting to the ground. Rowena opens her eyes and looks at you, not to study, not to judge, but as if she sees the story quietly unfolding within you. You carry many pages, she says gently, some heavy, some bright, some still waiting to be written. The floating books circle the room in a lazy orbit, their movement soothing, rhythmic, like the tide pulling gently at the edges of your mind. Rowena places a hand over the blank book. Here, she whispers, you may let one page rest. She does not tell you which page. She does not ask what it holds. She simply offers the space. And somehow, deep within you, a single thought loosens, a weight you didn't realize was clenched. It drifts away, soft as parchment sliding off a desk. The blank book absorbs it quietly, its pages shimmering with a faint pearly glow. Rowena smiles. Even stories need sleep, and so do you. She stands and extends her hand. When you rise, the chamber seems to tilt gently, like a dream shifting into another dream. The floating books drift upward, glowing in a slow ascending spiral, like lanterns released into a night sky. The chamber fades behind you as Rowena guides you back into the main library. The shelves return, the wooden scent deepens, and the world regains its subtle golden hue. She leads you to the same window seat where the journey began. The night outside is softer now, as though time has curled around itself to make room for your rest. Rowena places a hand on your shoulder, light as a falling leaf. Tonight, she whispers, let your thoughts turn their pages slowly. Let your mind become a quiet library. Let your heart choose peace. She steps back, her form merging gently with the shelves behind her. Sleep, she breathes, is simply wisdom choosing to rest. And as her presence fades, the warmth of her words remain, settling into the deepest parts of you, steady, gentle, and endlessly calm.
Somewhere beneath the grand marble halls of Hogwarts, far below the echo of footsteps and the drifting murmurs of students, there lies a place where magic takes a softer shape. Not the sharp brilliance of spells, not the silent might of ancient artifacts, but the warm, gentle magic of home. This was the realm of Helga Hufflepuff. kind-hearted Helga, whose golden hair framed a face forever lit by the glow of hearthlight. Her presence felt like a warm blanket laid across weary shoulders, and the moment you stepped into her kitchen, her true sanctuary, you understood why students whispered about it with such affection. Helga's kitchen was unlike any other room in the castle. The ceiling was low enough to feel intimate, yet high enough to let laughter rise freely. Copper pots hung above wooden tables polished by countless meals. The stone floor glowed softly, warmed from below by enchanted embers that never dimmed. And at the center of the room was the great hearth, wide, welcoming, its fire crackling with a low, soothing rhythm that seemed to breathe with the room itself. It was here that Helga spent most of her time, stirring soups that smelled like comfort, kneading dough that rose with the promise of sweetness, and humming melodies older than the castle walls. They said Helga never cooked simply to feed a stomach. She cooked to feed a heart. On quiet nights when moonlight brushed silver across the kitchen tiles, students would wander in, sometimes by accident, sometimes because they felt a tug in their chest leading them there. Helga always noticed. She would pause whatever she was doing, turn with that soft smile of hers, and say, "Come, sit with me, dear heart." Tonight, she invites you into that same warmth. Imagine stepping through the enchanted doorway, feeling the gentle shift in the air as the castle's grandeur melts into something homely and safe. The smell of warm bread greets you first, the sweet buttery scent wrapping around you like a hug. The fire crackles softly, casting golden ripples across the room. Helga stands by the hearth, stirring a pot with slow, thoughtful movements. She doesn't ask why you've come. She never needs to. She simply raises her eyes, full of kindness, and gestures for you to sit at the wooden bench near the fire. You take your seat, feeling the gentle heat seep through your clothes, warming your arms, your chest, your breath. Helga ladles something from the pot into a small, round bowl. The aroma rises like a memory you forgot you missed. Chicken, herbs, a hint of garlic, and something else, something tender, like longing softened by time. She places the bowl in front of you. "For comfort," she whispers. Her voice is warm, low, almost like the fire itself. She sits beside you, the bench dipping just slightly with her weight. For a moment, there is no sound but the popping of the fire and the quiet hum of warmth filling the room. Helga folds her hands on her lap and watches the flames. "Do you know," she murmurs gently, "that the heart rests best when it feels safe?" A soft breeze from the chimney stirs her golden hair. That is why I cook, not for fullness, but for peace. The fire crackles again, slow, steady, a rhythm as soothing as breath. Helga continues, "Every child who has entered this kitchen has carried something heavy, loneliness, fear, homesickness. But warmth," she touches her chest, "warmth softens everything." She looks at you, really looks, and her gaze feels like sunlight filtered through soft curtains. Tonight, you are home here, and you are cared for. And as she speaks, the warmth of the room deepens, pressing softly into your bones, loosening the muscles at the back of your neck, inviting your thoughts to settle,
like snow falling gently on quiet earth.
Helga rises from the bench with a soft sigh, the kind that carries warmth instead of weariness. She moves across the kitchen with a grace that feels almost motherly, steady, grounding, and slow enough to calm the air itself. The fire's glow follows her as if drawn to her gentle presence. You watch as she opens a wooden cupboard with carved handles shaped like tiny badgers. Inside are rows of jars filled with herbs, spices, and ingredients that seem to hum with quiet life. She selects a jar of honey, golden, thick, glowing softly like captured sunlight, then retrieves a small bowl of flour from a lower shelf. Sometimes, she says, as she pours the honey into a mixing bowl, comfort is simple. A sweetness, a warmth, a reminder that you are cared for. Her hands move with knowing ease, stirring the ingredients as though she has mixed not only dough, but also countless moments of solace. She motions for you to come closer. You join her at the long wooden table, feeling the faint vibrations of the kitchen shifting around you. Pots, pans, enchanted spoons, all adjusting themselves subtly to make room for you. Helga places the bowl in front of you and offers a wooden spoon. If you stir, she whispers, the worries loosen. You stir slowly. The mixture is warm, the honey thick and fragrant, releasing a scent that seems to smooth the inside of your chest. Helga smiles, her eyes crinkling with genuine affection. See, she murmurs, even the smallest motion can soften a storm. She takes the bowl back and begins shaping the dough into small, round honey biscuits. Each one looks like a tiny sun, soft edges, glowing centers, little peaks of sweetness waiting to comfort someone who needs it. As she places the biscuits onto a tray, the enchanted oven opens on its own, exhaling a wave of heat that feels like a warm embrace. Helga slides the tray inside, and the oven closes with a gentle sigh. She dusts her hands on her apron and returns to sit with you at the bench. You can feel the shift in the room, quieter, deeper. The fire crackles softly, the pots sway gently from their hooks, and somewhere near the sink, a kettle begins to hum a low, soothing note, as if joining the rhythm of Helga's peaceful magic. Many think strength comes from bravery, Helga says softly, folding her hands. But sometimes strength comes from gentleness, from kindness, from knowing how to offer warmth in a world that often forgets it. She pauses, watching the fire. I have seen students hide their tears behind smiles, carry their fears in silence, pretend they are fine because they think they must be. Her gaze shifts to you, warm and steady, but here there is no pretending. The oven chimes, a soft, melodic sound like a lullaby sung from behind a door. Helga stands, retrieves the tray of honey biscuits, and places them on the table between you. The aroma fills the room instantly.
Sweet, buttery, comforting in a way that seems to reach all the way into your memories. She hands you one. It's warm, so warm it feels like holding a small heartbeat. This, she says gently, is for when the world feels too big. You take a bite. The biscuit melts on your tongue, soft and sweet, the honey lingering like a tender note held long after the musician has stopped playing. Helga watches you with quiet pride. You see, she murmurs, warmth finds a way in. Then she leans back against the bench, her voice growing softer than the fire's glow. In this kitchen, no one is alone, and no one has to hide their tiredness. She closes her eyes for a moment, breathing in slowly, letting the silence fold around both of you like a quilt. Tonight, she whispers, let the warmth rest in your heart. Let it reach the places that feel cold. Let it tell you, in its own soft way, that you belong. And as the honey's sweetness settles inside you, the room grows quieter still. Soft, golden, safe, like a lullaby woven from light.
The warmth of Helga's kitchen deepens, settling around you like a soft quilt stitched from golden light. The sweetness of the honey biscuit lingers on your tongue, and with each breath you take, the gentle heat of the hearth seems to slip a little deeper into your bones. Helga watches you for a moment, her eyes warm, patient, knowing. Then she rises and walks toward the great hearth, where a cast-iron pot hangs above the embers. She lifts the lid, releasing a slow curl of fragrant steam. It carries hints of herbs, butter, and something faintly floral, like the first breeze of spring drifting through an open window. This, she says softly, is for those who carry quiet burdens. She ladles a small portion into a clay mug, then returns to sit beside you. She places the mug in your hands. The heat radiates through the clay, easing your fingers, your wrists, your shoulders. You lift it gently. The aroma soothes something you hadn't realized was tight within you. Drink slowly, Helga murmurs, and imagine the warmth finding its way to the places within you that feel forgotten. As you sip, the taste is comforting, rich, soft, familiar in a way you can't quite explain. The warmth spreads through you, like a gentle light being poured into hidden corners. Helga folds her hands and gazes into the fire. You know, she says, her voice a lazy whisper, this castle can be magnificent, but magnificence does not always make a heart feel safe. She leans slightly closer, lowering her voice as though sharing a secret meant only for you. That is why this kitchen exists. Not to impress, but to comfort. The fire crackles, sending a small shower of sparks upward like glowing fireflies. Helga continues, there were days when students arrived from homes filled with noise or silence or expectations too heavy for their small shoulders. They would wander these halls wondering where they belonged. She touches the wooden table with her fingertips, but the moment they stepped in here, the castle stopped feeling so large and they stopped feeling so small. She closes her eyes for a moment, breathing in slowly. Every child deserves a place where they don't have to earn warmth, where love is given freely, where being tired is not something to hide. She opens her eyes again, meeting your gaze gently. Tonight, this place is yours. Helga stands and walks toward a shelf near the oven. From it, she retrieves a thick knitted blanket, warm in color and soft enough to feel like a cloud. She drapes it around your shoulders with quiet care. The weight of it is soothing, grounding, coaxing your breath into a slower rhythm. There, she whispers, feel the way it holds you. That is how you are meant to be held by the world. She returns to the hearth and begins to hum, a soft, unhurried melody older than the foundation stones of Hogwarts. The tune wavers gently like candlelight. As she hums, the room seems to change. The fire glows a little warmer. The enchanted spoons sway in a lazy rhythm. Even the shadows seem to soften, curling around the edges of the room like loyal companions settling down for the night. Helga turns back to you, her face lit by the golden fire. "Do you know why warmth helps us sleep?" she asks quietly. When you shake your head, she smiles, because warmth tells the body you are safe, and when the body believes it, the mind follows. She sits beside you again, her presence steady as the hearth. "Let the warmth speak to you," she murmurs. "Let it soften the noise of the day. Let it untangle the tired corners of your mind." The fire pops softly, as if agreeing with her words. Helga places her hand over yours, a gentle touch, warm and full of a love that expects nothing in return. Tonight, you are cared for, truly cared for, and you may rest knowing you belong. The sounds of the kitchen grow softer, melting into a lullaby of glowing embers and faint magical hums. Your breath slows, your shoulders sink, and Helga's final words drift into the quiet like feathers settling onto still water. "Sleep well, dear heart. You are safe here, and you are loved."
Far in the northern shadows of Hogwarts Castle, beyond the towers stirred by wind and the courtyards brushed by drifting leaves, there lies a lake so deep that even moonlight hesitates before touching it. The students simply call it the lake, but Salazar Slytherin knew it by another name, one only whispered in ancient tongues, a name that meant the mirror that remembers. On quiet nights, when the castle's torches dimmed and the world grew softer around the edges, Slytherin would walk alone to its shores. His long black hair moved gently with the breeze, and his gray eyes, calm as storm clouds thinking, studied the shifting surface of the water. To most, the lake looked dark, but to Salazar it was clear as glass, a surface so smooth, so unbroken, that it reflected not only the world above, but the thoughts drifting inside him. He valued this silence, this deep, unshaken quiet, more than he valued the applause of the Great Hall or the noisy brilliance of magic practiced in daylight. Here, by the water, he could hear something truer, the soft lap of gentle waves, the faint whisper of unseen currents, the steady breath of the earth beneath the lake bed. Sometimes, if he arrived early enough, he would see a mermaid's silhouette drifting beneath the surface, hair flowing like silver threads, eyes glowing with ancient stories no human language could capture. Other times, the giant squid would lift one curious tentacle, letting it sway lazily in the moonlit ripples as if acknowledging his presence. These creatures did not fear him, nor did they revere him. They simply existed alongside him, quiet companions sharing the same solitude. Slytherin would sit on the smooth, moss-covered stone at the water's edge. His cloak pooled around him like a dark shadow, settling comfortably at his side. The night air was cool, carrying the soft scent of wet earth and distant pine.
The lake mirrored the sky so perfectly that sometimes it felt like sitting at the border between two worlds, one above, one below, each breathing in its own slow rhythm. And each time, without fail, Salazar would close his eyes and listen. "Wisdom," he whispered once, his voice low, barely rippling the silence, "is not always found in books, nor in loud voices, nor in bright places. Sometimes it is found in the stillness that carries no sound." He believed deeply that nature spoke softly to those who had the patience to listen. To him, the lake was a teacher, one that taught without words, without judgment, without hurry. He often brought students here, not many, only those who seemed lost in their thoughts, troubled by noise they didn't know how to quiet. He would guide them to sit, to breathe, to let the cold air settle gently around their minds. "The lake," he told them, "reminds us of something important. The world is quieter than you think. Peace is closer than you believe." Tonight, he invites you to sit at the edge of that deep, ancient water. Imagine the soft moss beneath your hands, cool and plush. Imagine the faint shimmer of moonlight stretching across the lake's glassy surface. Imagine the way the air slows around you, how each breath becomes deeper, steadier, as though the night itself is breathing with you. The water makes a sound, a soft hush, like old memories brushing against one another. A rhythm gentle enough to loosen the knots inside you, one by one. Salazar remains beside you, not speaking, not instructing, simply sharing the stillness. His presence is calm, grounding, like a steady stone on the lake bed. And as you listen, truly listen, the world around you softens. The surface of the lake blurs into a quiet silver. The trees sway as though dreaming. The moon leans low, as if listening with you. In this silence, there is comfort. In this stillness, a kind of truth unfolds, slowly, gently, like water finding its way home.
The surface of the lake shifts gently, as if responding to your steady breathing. Soft ripples spread outward, forming delicate rings of silver that fade slowly into the night. Salazar watches them with quiet interest, his gaze not sharp or calculating as many imagine, but calm, almost tender, in a way few ever get to see. He leans forward slightly, resting his fingertips on the cool moss beside him. "Do you feel that?" he asks softly, though he isn't expecting an answer. The lake gives its own reply, a low, resonant hum rising from the depths, so faint you might mistake it for the echo of your own heartbeat. It's not magic in the way students expect. No sparks, no luminous trails of light, just nature whispering in a frequency slow enough, gentle enough, to quiet even the most tangled thoughts. Salazar closes his eyes for a moment, letting the hum settle into his chest. "Most people," he murmurs, "fear the deep because they cannot see its bottom. They imagine monsters, dangers, darkness. He opens his eyes again, and the reflection of the moon glimmers in them like broken silver. But the deep is simply a place where noise cannot reach, a place where even fear grows tired. He shifts slightly, his cloak brushing against the stone, a soft sound, barely there. That is why I come here, he continues, not to escape the world, but to hear it more clearly. A mermaid appears beneath the surface, a shape moving with the slow grace of drifting seaweed. She pauses near the shore, her luminous eyes studying both of you. Salazar dips his head respectfully toward her. She responds with a small melodic trill, so soft it vibrates more in the air than in your ears. And then she sinks back into the deep, her silhouette dissolving into the darker water. They understand silence, Salazar says quietly, better than we do. The wind passes gently across the lake, carrying with it the scent of water and something older, like forgotten stories rising from the lake bed. Salazar lifts his hand, letting the breeze slip between his fingers. The world speaks, he whispers, but it rarely speaks loudly. He turns to you. His gray eyes hold no judgment, only an invitation to slow down. Tell me, he says softly, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be quiet? This question is not meant to be answered aloud. It is a question that settles inside the chest, unfolding slowly, like a leaf drifting open underwater. The lake responds again. Another gentle hum, deeper this time, as if agreeing with the unspoken truth he is guiding you toward. Salazar rests his palm flat against the moss, grounding himself. Silence, he murmurs, is a mirror. It reflects not what we show the world, but what we hide from ourselves. He dips his fingers into the lake. The water glows faintly where he touches it, shimmering like moonlight pooled into liquid form. Look, he whispers, motioning for you to lean slightly forward. You do, and beneath the surface, the lake reflects more than your face. You see something softer, something quieter. Not a memory, not a vision, but a feeling. One that moves like slow water, revealing the parts of you that are tired and ready to rest. Salazar watches your expression shift gently. Yes, he whispers. The lake shows truth, but only the kind that helps you breathe easier. He removes his hand from the water, droplets shimmering briefly in the air before falling back. There is nothing here that wishes to harm you. Not the deep, not the night, not the silence. A distant sound echoes across the lake, a single resonant splash from some unseen creature settling into the water for its own night of rest. Salazar inhales deeply, and the air seems to still around the two of you. Tonight, he says gently, let the quiet take you. Let it loosen whatever clenches inside. Let it soften the noise you carry. He closes his eyes again, listening. In stillness, even shadows become gentle. And as you sit beside him, the lake's peaceful breath rises and falls, syncing with your own, until the two become almost indistinguishable.
The lake grows even quieter, as though it has settled into the same breath you now share with the night. The silver sheen on the surface becomes softer, warmer, almost like a sheet of moonlit silk gently pulling itself over the world. Salazar remains beside you, but something in him shifts, not outwardly, not visibly, but inwardly, like a thought deepening. His gaze moves slowly across the horizon where the lake meets the dark line of the forbidden forest. For a long moment, he simply listens, allowing the silence to shape itself around both of you. People misunderstand silence, he finally murmurs. They think it is emptiness, but true silence is full of meanings waiting to be heard. He reaches for a smooth stone near his knee, turning it lightly between his fingers. The stone has been washed by the lake so many times that it carries the softness of time itself. Every ripple here, he whispers, comes from something, a shift beneath the surface, a thought drifting, a memory surfacing. Silence is not the absence of life. It is the space in which life reveals itself. He places the stone gently into the water. It sinks slowly, sending a circle of ripples outward, each one widening, softening, dissolving into stillness once more. You see, he says softly, even the smallest disturbance becomes part of something larger. Nothing is wasted in quiet places. He rests his hands on his knees, shoulders relaxed, his posture as steady as the stones beneath the lake. Above you, the moon drifts behind a thin cloud, dimming the world just enough to make the night feel even softer. A cool breeze brushes past, stirring your hair, carrying with it the scent of wet leaves and distant rain that hasn't yet arrived. Salazar inhales quietly. There is a moment just before sleep when the mind sinks the way a stone does, not falling quickly, not drowning, but descending gently through layers of thought until it reaches the quiet beneath everything. His voice slows further, lowering to a hush that almost blends with the night. That quiet is what the lake teaches. A soft splash interrupts the silence, a creature settling deeper beneath the waves. The sound is not startling, it is slow, rhythmic, a sound that feels older than the castle itself. Salazar watches the ripples fade, then speaks again. When I was younger, I sought power in noise, loud spells, louder victories, but the lake taught me something I could not learn anywhere else. He lets the breeze pause before finishing. Strength is not always loud. He closes his eyes. Sometimes strength is the ability to sit with yourself without fear. The moon emerges again, brighter now, illuminating the curve of the lake. The water glows like liquid silver. The trees sway gently, their reflection blurring softly at the edges as though dreaming. Salazar lifts his head, his voice now barely above a whisper. Tonight, let this place hold you. Let the deep remind you that not everything must be understood. Not everything must be solved. Some things only need to be felt. His words drift into the quiet like leaves resting on the water. Let the world be distant for a while. Let the night carry what you're tired of carrying. He places one hand on the moss between you, an unspoken gesture of grounding, steady and calm. Breathe with the lake, slow, deep, gentle. The lake responds with a sigh of water brushing against stone. Your breath falls into the same rhythm, slow, deep, gentle. Do you hear it?
Salazar whispers. That is the world telling you to rest. The silver on the lake melts into soft darkness as the moon climbs higher. The night wraps itself around you, not heavy, but warm and vast, like a cloak woven from quiet. You are safe here, Salazar says. His voice is softer than everything else around you. You may rest without fear. The deep holds no threats, only peace. And as the lake continues its soft, ancient breathing, the last of your tension unwinds, your thoughts loosen, your shoulders sink, and sleep draws near like a tide rising gently to shore. Sleep, he whispers, hardly more than the breath of the night. The lake watches over you. And then all that remains is water, moonlight, and the endless, comforting quiet.
High above the swirling corridors of Hogwarts, far beyond the staircases that shift in slow, sleepy circles, there is a room almost forgotten by time. A room the students rarely find. A room that even the professors speak of only in quiet tones, as if it should not be disturbed. The old study room, a sanctuary touched by memory rather than magic. Tonight, you climb the final spiral staircase, step by gentle step, feeling the air grow stiller, warmer, as if something kind and familiar waits at the top. When you push open the heavy wooden door, the room greets you with the soft glow of candlelight. The worn leather chairs arranged in a loose circle, the shelves lined with dusty tomes, the scent of old parchment mingling with the faint sweetness of beeswax candles. You step inside, and the door closes behind you with the gentlest click, almost like the room is sighing in welcome. There is a softness here, a hush that feels sacred. The candles flicker lazily, their flames bending as if in recognition of an old memory still lingering in the air. The walls are lined with portraits, not of professors or ministers or great historical figures, but of former students, young witches and wizards caught in moments of triumph, joy, discovery. Their painted eyes shine with the hopes of long ago years. Some portraits hold scrolls or wands. Others clutch books tightly to their chests. One girl in the far corner stands barefoot on a broomstick, laughing so hard her painted cheeks seem alive. All of them watch over the room with a quiet pride, as though they remember what was spoken here. For this was where the four founders, Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, Helga Hufflepuff, and Salazar Slytherin, met when the castle was young, when their dreams were still being carved into stone. This was where they came not as legends, but as friends. You walk farther into the room and feel the air shift, a warmth blooming, an almost invisible presence gathering, like memories awakening from a long, gentle sleep. In your mind, you can almost see them. Godric's strong frame leaning back into his chair, the fire reflecting in his amber eyes. Rowena's long blue-black hair shimmering like a night sky as she sits with perfect poise. Helga's warm smile brightening the candlelit circle. And Slytherin, quiet, thoughtful,
his fingers steepled together as though he's listening to something deeper than words. They aren't ghosts, not echoes, more like impressions, soft silhouettes formed from the very air of the room, from the history held in its walls. The room remembers them the way the lake remembers footsteps, the way trees remember the wind. You take a seat in one of the worn leather chairs. It creaks gently beneath you, as if adjusting to make you comfortable. The warmth of the candles settles on your skin. For a moment, there is only stillness. And then, quietly, as naturally as water finding a riverbed, the voices begin to return. Godric speaks first, his tone steady and warm, carrying the weight of someone who believes passionately in every word he says. Education, he murmurs, is not only the teaching of knowledge, but the shaping of how to live. His voice fills the room like a soft fire, bright but calm. Rowena, seated beside him, closes her eyes for a moment before adding, "And learning is a journey with no end. Each answer leads to a question. Each question leads to growth." Her words are gentle, thoughtful, full of a wisdom that feels like moonlight on water. Helga leans forward, resting her elbows on her knees, her voice as warm as a blanket laid across tired shoulders. "But above all," she whispers, "education must always be rooted in kindness, in care. Without love, knowledge has no home." You feel the room soften further, as though the candles themselves lean in to listen. And then, in the quietest voice of all, Slytherin speaks, not cold, not distant, but soft, contemplative, shaped by stillness. "And silence," he says, "must always be honored, for without silence, none of us can hear what matters." The four ideas, wisdom, curiosity, compassion, and quiet, combine in the air like four threads weaving a single tapestry. And slowly, gently, you feel yourself becoming part of the circle, a listener, a witness, a friend. The room holds you in its warmth, as though it has been waiting a very, very long time for someone to sit and listen again. You sit quietly in the old leather chair, letting the warmth of the candles seep deeper into your skin, spreading through your chest like a calm, slow sunrise. The four founders, shadows shaped from memory rather than flesh, continue to sit with you, their presence neither overwhelming nor distant. They are simply here, as if they have been waiting for someone willing to listen without rushing, without expectation. In the stillness, Rowena's gaze drifts toward the window, toward the soft outline of the night sky beyond the glass. You follow her eyes and see a sliver of moonlight falling across the floorboards, silver and delicate. It looks almost like a bookmark, left there by the night itself to save the page of this moment. Rowena's voice breaks the quiet, barely above a whisper. "Knowledge grows," she says, "when shared. A secret kept only for oneself becomes heavy, but a truth passed gently from mind to mind becomes light." Godric nods, his warm, steady breath
creating the faintest ripple in the candle flames. And courage, he adds, is not the roar of battle, but the softness of admitting we do not know everything. Only the brave can learn. Only the humble can grow. Helga smiles at them both, her hands folded in her lap, radiating a warmth that makes the whole room feel like the common room of a home you've always longed for. And kindness, she murmurs, is the bridge between minds. Without it, no wisdom can cross. Slytherin closes his eyes for a long moment, as though he is listening not to the conversation, but to the heartbeat of the room itself. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, almost like a secret the air has been holding for centuries. But silence, he says softly, is where all understanding begins. In quiet, we meet ourselves. You feel the truth of his words settle over your shoulders, warm and grounding. Around you, the old study room feels alive, not with movement, but with memory. The grain of the wooden floor seems to hum with stories. The portraits on the walls shift slightly, leaning forward in subtle curiosity, as though eager to hear what wisdom will be spoken next. One portrait, an old student carrying a stack of books, tilts its head, as if the painted boy recalls sitting in this very room centuries ago, hearing the founders speak just as you hear them now. Another portrait, of a young witch clutching a quill, seems to smile at you, as though encouraging you to take in every word. You breathe slowly, letting the nostalgia of the room wrap around you like a soft cloak. And then, something unexpected happens. The candles dim, not flickering, just softening, like they are lowering their light out of respect for what comes next. Helga leans forward slightly, her presence warm enough to make the whole room feel like a gentle hearth. Each time we met here, she says, we brought not our titles, but our hearts. This room was not for teaching, but for understanding. Godric runs a hand along the arm of his chair, his expression soft. Here, he adds, we learned what Hogwarts needed to become, a home for every kind of student, even those who had not yet learned to recognize their own worth. Rowena's eyes shimmer like distant stars, thoughtful and kind. We debated, she says gently. We disagreed, but always, we listened. Slytherin exhales slowly, like someone releasing a memory long locked away. And in this silence, he murmurs, we found a place where our differences could breathe. Their circle of voices feels like a soft current flowing through the room, shifting, weaving, harmonizing, and you, sitting quietly among them, feel a sense of belonging so deep it seems to hum in your bones. The walls hold it, the air carries it, even the dust motes floating in the candlelight seem to drift a little slower, as if honoring the calm. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to feel, to absorb, to let yourself be part of something ancient and tender, something preserved not in books, but in the breath of the room. When you open your eyes again, the four figures are still there, but their outlines are softer now, like clouds dissolving at the edge of dawn. Not fading, just relaxing, settling back into the quiet from which they came. And still, you feel them with you, a circle of warmth, a companionship across centuries, a gentle reminder that learning, friendship, and understanding can be as soft as candlelight.
As you sit within the gentle circle of candlelight, a hush settles over the old study room. A hush so soft, so deep, it feels almost alive. The founders' silhouettes continue to glow faintly, as though lit from within by the memories they've shared. Their shapes waver like warm breath on cold glass, tender and half-dreamed. The room itself seems to lean closer, listening not just with walls and portraits, but with something that feels like a heart. For a long, peaceful moment, nobody speaks, yet you do not feel the silence as emptiness. Instead, it feels like a warm pocket in time, like the world has paused just long enough for you to feel completely safe. Eventually, Godric shifts in his chair, the leather giving a soft sigh beneath him. His expression is thoughtful, softened by years of reflection rather than battle. "This room," he begins, voice low and steady, "was where we came to remember who we were, outside of our duties." Rowena tilts her head slightly, her gaze shimmering with the wisdom of 1,000 nights spent studying starlight. "Here," she adds, "we spoke not as founders, but as souls, souls searching for the best way to guide those entrusted to us." Helga lets out a warm breath, gentle, reassuring, her eyes kind enough to melt the heaviest worry. "And we shared everything," she murmurs, "our fears, our hopes, our doubts, even our mistakes." Slytherin's fingers tap softly on the arm of his chair, not impatiently, but rhythmically, like raindrops marking the passage of time. "And our truths," he finishes quietly, "especially the ones hardest to speak." The air seems to hum, low, steady, like the room is absorbing their words, tucking them into its wooden bones. You feel the same warmth settle inside you, like an ember placed gently in the hearth of your chest. Then Godric leans forward slightly, his outline glowing more clearly for a moment. "We never wanted Hogwarts to be a place of perfection, only a place of becoming." Helga nods, her smile glowing like the edge of a sunrise. A place where every child could grow, in whatever direction their heart was meant to take. Rowena folds her hands gracefully, her voice drifting like a feather falling into your palms. A place where curiosity could flourish, without shame, without fear. Slytherin's gaze drifts to the candles, their flames reflected in his silver-gray eyes. When he speaks again, his voice is fragile in a way you've never imagined, and a place where even the quietest among us could be heard. you feel something in your chest soften. Not break, simply soften, the way snow melts under sunlight. The founders begin to fade just slightly, not disappearing, but gently dissolving back into the warmth of the room, as though the study itself is reclaiming their memories. Yet before they fade fully, the air seems to shimmer, and suddenly the impressions of the four founders appear sitting a little closer to one another, the circle tightening, the warmth deepening. Godric's voice emerges again, barely more than a breath. "Friendship," he murmurs, "is a kind of magic too." Rowena smiles faintly. "One of the oldest kinds," she agrees. Helga's hand rests over her heart, "and the safest." Slytherin exhales, a soft, honest sound, "and the rarest." The candles brighten for a heartbeat, as if sealing the truth into the air. Then slowly, slowly, their silhouettes begin to fade, like ink dissolving into water. The circle remains, but the figures blur into the warm glow of candles, becoming part of the room once more. And yet you do not feel alone, not even for a moment. You feel accompanied, held, as if the founders have left a quiet blessing in the air, a kind of gentle understanding that wraps around your shoulders like a cloak. You breathe in, the scent of parchment, beeswax, and ancient wood fills your lungs. You breathe out, the past and present blend into a soft, golden hum. Behind you, the door remains closed, not to trap you, but to protect the quiet, to preserve this pocket of peace as long as you wish to remain. And in this candlelit stillness, with the warmth of centuries lingering in the air, you feel yourself drifting deeper and deeper into the calm, into the safety, into the kind of rest that only comes when the heart feels understood.
Beyond the stone walls of the castle, past the torches that burn quietly along the corridors, the world of Hogwarts expands into an ancient forest where moonlight settles like soft dust on every leaf. This forest is older than the founders themselves, older than the castle's first stone, older even than the magic that shaped the school. And yet, it breathes in harmony with Hogwarts, like a gentle guardian resting at its side. Tonight, as you walk through the silver-lit trees, the air is cool, hushed, filled with the faint scent of moss and forgotten stories. You sense movement, but not danger. Only the soft presence of the creatures who have always watched over the castle from the shadows and branches. The first to appear are the cats, those small gray guardians who wander the corridors at night. You notice one stepping out from behind an ancient oak tree, its fur the exact shade of moonlit smoke. Its eyes glow blue, clear, calm, endlessly deep, as if the ocean has found a way to live within them. The cat pauses, studying you not with suspicion,
but with a curious kindness. The way a quiet friend looks at you before sitting down beside you. These are not ordinary cats. They move through the world as though the walls are gentle suggestions rather than barriers. You watch as the gray cat pads forward and then, with a delicate shimmer, slips through a tree trunk as though the wood were nothing but warm mist. They see everything. They learn everything. And yet, they never judge. Hogwarts students have whispered for centuries that when someone feels lonely, anxious, or unsure of themselves, a gray cat will always appear. Not to speak, not to solve, only to lie beside them, a silent, steady reminder. You are not alone. As you continue deeper into the forest, another presence fills the air, lighter, colder, shimmering like frost on glass. A pair of white shapes sweep down from the treetops, gliding with wings so silent they seem woven from the quiet itself. The owls, snow-white, round-eyed, soft as drifting clouds. One lands on a branch above you, tilting its head as if listening to your heartbeat. Its feathers glow faintly in the moonlight, each one moving with the slow, peaceful rhythm of night. These owls carry letters and messages across the castle by day, but by night they take on a gentler purpose. They circle the grounds, drifting like guardian spirits, making sure each sleeping soul is wrapped in peace. One owl leans forward slightly, its voice not loud, not sharp, but soft as a breath resting on your ear. Peace is the rarest treasure. Protect it well. The forest seems to pause at its words, the leaves holding still, the branches softening their shadows, even the wind choosing silence. And then, beyond the trees, you hear the faintest ripple of water, a soft music shaped by moonlit waves. You follow the sound until the forest opens into a clearing where the lake stretches wide and calm. The surface reflects the sky like polished silver. Beneath it, glimmers, slow drifting glimmers. Golden fish move through the water, each one shimmering like a tiny star set loose to swim. They glide in unhurried loops, their tails leaving faint trails of light that fade like whispered wishes. These fish are small, delicate, but ancient. Their presence is said to bring luck to those who see them on a quiet night like this. Luck not in the loud, dramatic sense, but in the gentle form of clarity, rest, or a moment of understanding. You kneel at the water's edge, watching their golden shapes drift beneath the surface. The lake mirrors your reflection, soft and dreamlike, surrounded by the glow of moon and stars. A soft breeze moves across the clearing, cool against your skin, carrying the scent of pine and night-blooming flowers. The fish swim closer, as though welcoming you to sit a while, breathe a while, simply be. And as you watch them, their gentle, glowing movements weave a calmness through your chest. A calmness older than Hogwarts, older than magic, older than dreams themselves.
The lake glows softly beneath the moon, its surface so smooth it looks like a sheet of silver glass laid gently across the world. As you sit at its edge, The golden fish drift in slow spirals, their movements weaving quiet patterns through the water, like strokes of a brush painting the night. You watch them for a long moment, letting your breath fall into rhythm with their graceful arcs. The forest around you seems to sense your stillness and grows even softer. The branches settle. The leaves turn their faces toward the moon. The night opens itself like a warm cloak. And then, from the far bank of the lake, you see a soft ripple, a tiny wave rolling outward, as though something gentle has moved beneath the surface. You lean closer. The moonlight deepens, and slowly, emerging from the water, like a dream rising into the world, another creature appears. A small otter. Its fur shimmering in silver and gold, pokes its head above the lake's quiet surface. It blinks at you, curious but unafraid, and swims closer with tiny, effortless strokes. This otter, too, belongs to Hogwarts. Some say it was once Rowena Ravenclaw's favorite animal, appearing during nights when she wandered the lakeshore, searching for clarity in her thoughts. Others believe it is a guardian spirit of the lake, guiding those who feel lost back toward calm waters. Tonight, it simply drifts near you, quiet, trusting. Its dark eyes shine like polished stones, reflecting candlelight that isn't even there. It circles once, twice, and then floats on its back, letting the gentle waves carry it. The sight is unexpectedly calming, so simple, so unhurried, that your own muscles loosen, almost involuntarily. The otter lets out a soft chirping sound, as if inviting you to let go, just a little more, just enough to feel the night supporting you. And you do. Your shoulders grow heavier in the best way. Your breathing deepens. The world becomes quiet again, deeper this time, as though the night recognizes the shift in your heartbeat. Then, in the distance, you hear the faintest flutter, the soft beat of wings brushing through the air. One by one, more owls descend from the treetops, not in alarm, not in haste, but in a slow, synchronized drift, like flakes of snow falling where no wind blows. They gather on branches, railings, stones near the lake. Their presence doesn't disturb the otter or the fish. Instead, it completes the scene. Forest, lake, moon, creatures, all balanced in a circle of quiet harmony. One owl, the same white guardian from earlier, hops down to a rock beside you. It turns its head all the way to the left, then to the right, in that distinctly owl-like way, observing you as though memorizing your presence. Then, softly, it closes its eyes and simply sits with you. No task, no message, just presence. The forest joins in the silence. Its quiet no longer empty, but full of a warm, waiting stillness. Even the shadows seem to soften, blending gently into the moss and tree roots. The gray cats reappear now, slipping from behind trees with steps so silent they seem like thoughts moving instead of bodies. One rubs lightly against your ankle. Another curls near the base of a tree, its tail flicking once before settling. They gather in a loose semicircle around the lake, as if honoring the night's calm. And somewhere behind them,
you notice tiny lights. Small floating orbs drifting between branches, flickering with soft gold, soft blue, soft pearl white. They drift slowly, like dandelion seeds glowing brighter whenever a creature passes beneath them. No one knows what these lights truly are: spirits, memories, or simply magic taking shape. But the creatures treat them with quiet reverence, and so do you as well. For a moment, everything is still. The lake, the trees, the creatures, even your own breath seems to join the peaceful rhythm of Hogwarts at night. And in this sacred quiet, a realization settles gently inside you. Hogwarts is not kept safe by walls or spells alone. It is kept safe by the creatures who love it, the guardians who walk, fly, swim, and glide through its grounds, the silent friends who watch over every student's dreams. And tonight, they are watching over you.
The creatures of Hogwarts gather quietly around you, forming a circle of gentle presence beneath the moonlit sky. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels sharp. Everything moves with the rhythm of a world that knows how to breathe slowly. A soft ripple moves across the lake again, not from a creature this time, but from the breeze returning to stir the surface. It carries with it the faintest whisper of pine, moss, and the old stones of the castle resting behind the trees. You look across the water and see the reflection of Hogwarts glimmering faintly between the ripples. Its towers rise like soft silhouettes carved into the night, their windows glowing with warm candlelight. Even at this distance, the castle does not look imposing. It looks alive, like a guardian watching over the forest in return. The otter floats lazily near the shore, rolling once as if showing off, then resting again with a tiny sigh. A few golden fish circle around it, their faint trails of light weaving sleepy patterns beneath its paws. The owls remain perched in patient silence. Their white feathers glow like small moons scattered through the branches. One of them gives a soft hoot, so gentle it barely disturbs the air. The sound ripples outward, touching the cats, the otter, the fish, and even you. They all respond in their own way. The cat's ears twitch, the fish drift a little slower, the otter lifts its head for a moment before letting it fall back into the water. It is as though one tiny sound has reminded every creature to settle even more deeply into the night's peace. And you feel it too. Your heartbeat softens, your breath deepens, the world grows quieter around you and within you. Then, from a cluster of trees near the lake, a faint shimmer begins to glow. At first, it looks like moonlight caught on dew. Then it brightens, forming swirling ribbons of pale gold and silver. The floating orbs, those tiny drifting lights, gather together, weaving through the branches like threads of magic, stitching the forest to the sky. The creatures lift their heads, not startled, but reverent. Whatever these lights are, they are old, older than Hogwarts, older than the forest.
They drift closer, forming a slow spiral in the air above the water. You watch, mesmerized, as they swirl, some bright, some faint, all moving with the grace of memories learning to dance. And then one breaks away from the spiral. It drifts toward you with the softness of a falling snowflake. Slowly, gently, it settles in the air at eye level, shimmering with warm light. It doesn't speak. It doesn't need to. Something in it feels familiar, like warmth you knew long ago but forgot how to name. A quiet memory, a kindness, a reminder. The light hovers there for a moment, then drifts closer, brushing your cheek with a warmth so soft it feels like a breath. The moment it touches you, the world becomes even calmer, your thoughts loosening, your muscles softening, your heart settling into a slow, steady rhythm. The light stays with you for a few breaths more, then drifts upward again, rejoining the spiral. The creatures watch it go as if watching a beloved friend walk a familiar path home. The otter rolls onto its stomach and swims in a slow circle, creating ripples that catch the reflections of the orbs above. The fish drift beneath him, glowing faintly like underwater stars. The owls blink slowly, their eyes heavy with a peace that seems to sink into their feathers. The cats curl closer, one resting beside your leg, another settling behind you like a cushioned shadow. In that moment, you understand something you hadn't before. The creatures of Hogwarts do not guard the school by accident. They guard it because they love it, quietly, loyally, gently. They care for its students the way the night cares for the moon. And tonight, they care for you the same way. The shimmering orbs begin to rise higher, drifting into the canopy until they blend with the stars. The creatures remain still, watching them fade into the night sky. The lake smooths once more, its surface a perfect mirror reflecting moonlight and memory. You breathe in, feeling the cool, ancient air fill your lungs. You breathe out, your body sinking deeper into tranquility. Surrounded by silent guardians, wrapped in the peaceful arms of the forest, you feel sleep approaching, not as a demand, but as an invitation. A gentle one, a kind one, a whisper carried by moonlit creatures saying, "Rest now, you are safe."
Inside Hogwarts, beyond the classrooms and staircases you know, hidden behind walls that shift like quiet memories, lie rooms older than maps, older than whispers, older even than the legends told in the Great Hall. These are the secret rooms, rooms that reveal themselves not to the curious, but to the quiet, not to the loud, but to the gentle-hearted. Tonight, as the castle settles into its midnight breathing, you find yourself wandering through a dim corridor you don't quite remember. The air feels softer here, touched by something ancient but kind. Candles glow with a steady light, not flickering, not wavering, as though guiding you somewhere the castle has chosen for you alone. Then, without warning,
A door appears on the stone wall beside you. Not opening, not shining, just existing. A simple wooden door with no handle, no keyhole, only a slight shimmer at its edges, as though it is made of memory rather than wood. When you lift your hand toward it, the door melts open like a curtain of warm light, and you step into the first room, the prayer room. A hush falls instantly, soft as a blanket being placed over your shoulders. The walls are white, not bright white, but the warm, creamy white of old parchment. Sunlight filters through narrow windows even though it is long past midnight. The light is gentle, golden, forming long ribbons that stretch across the room like drifting silk. In the center sits a velvet chair, midnight blue, plush, perfectly worn from centuries of quiet thinkers who sat here before you. The air carries a faint scent of lavender and old books. This room listens. It does nothing else. It does not judge, or speak, or echo. It simply listens. You sit on the velvet chair, the fabric cool at first, then warming beneath you as though the room recognizes your presence. And slowly, your thoughts begin to unwind, not disappear, just loosen, like knots gently undone by hands made of light. You think of questions you've held inside yourself, questions about your life, your heart, your path. You don't speak them. You don't have to. The room hears them anyway. A quiet calm fills the space, settling into your ribs, your spine, the back of your neck. You feel, without any sound, that the answer will come. Not now, not forcefully, but someday, softly, the way dawn touches a sleeping hillside. The prayer room fades behind you as gently as it appeared, and you step through another archway, the air growing cooler, the light shifting into soft silver. Ahead of you is the second secret place, the memory room. The moment you enter, the temperature changes, not cold, but crisp, like stepping into the first night of autumn. Shelves circle the walls, carved from dark oak, their surfaces polished smooth by centuries of careful hands. On each shelf sits a glass orb, hundreds of them glowing with soft light that pulses gently like sleeping hearts. The orbs shine in different colors, pale blue, rosy gold, soft green, moonlit white. Each one holds a memory, not simply stored, but cherished. As you walk between the shelves, the orbs react, brightening, dimming, shifting their glow as if acknowledging your presence. You reach out and touch one gently. It warms beneath your fingertips. Light curls upward inside the glass like mist rising from a quiet morning. Then images form, not sharp, not loud, but soft and blurred around the edges, like watching a memory through a window of warm rain. Laughter, footsteps, a student hugging a friend, a snowy courtyard, a late-night study table with candles burning low, someone receiving their first wand, someone seeing Hogwarts for the first time from the boats on the lake. The memory swells gently, wraps around your heart for a moment, then releases you back into the hush of the room. You breathe in, feeling nostalgia settle into your chest like a warm stone. And then, quietly, tenderly, the room opens a path toward the final of the 3 hidden chambers, the Room of Sleep.
The Room of Sleep does not appear suddenly. It does not open with bright magic or startle the air around it. Instead, it reveals itself the way night reveals stars, slowly, softly, almost shyly. You step forward through a narrow corridor carved of smooth stone, the kind of stone that carries warmth even in the coldest months. With each step, the corridor grows darker, but the darkness is tender, not frightening. It feels like stepping deeper into a warm blanket. At the end of this quiet passage, a soft breeze brushes your face. Not cold, not warm, just a breath of stillness. And then the corridor widens, opening into a chamber unlike any you've seen in Hogwarts. This is the Room of Sleep. The ceiling is high, but it seems to fade into shadow, as if the room has no true boundary between itself and the night sky. Soft lights, tiny, golden, floating, drift through the air like fireflies slowed down to a dreamer's pace. The floor is covered in thick blue carpets, their patterns swirling like gentle waves. The moment your foot touches the carpet, a quiet warmth spreads upward, relaxing your legs, your hips, your shoulders. A hush rests over the room, not silence, but the softest blend of distant wind, faint rustling leaves, and the steady heartbeat of the castle itself. Along the walls hang long curtains made of a silvery fabric that moves even when the air does not. They ripple slowly, like the slow breathing of a sleeping giant. At the center of the room lies a circular platform, draped in velvet cushions of deep green and moonlit white. As you step closer, the air grows gentler still, as if the room is welcoming you with the same tenderness one offers to a tired friend. You sit on one of the cushions and it lowers just slightly, fitting itself to your shape, holding you with a softness that almost feels alive. And then something extraordinary happens. The sound in the room shifts, not louder, not clearer, just closer. It feels like nature itself has leaned in, as though the castle wants you to hear the secret it has guarded for centuries. You take a slow breath. The air is cool on the inhale, warm on the exhale. Perfectly balanced, perfectly calming. And then a voice, not from a person, not from a ghost, but from the castle itself, begins to whisper through the golden lights drifting above you. Rest, it murmurs, is not weakness. Rest is the place where magic returns to the bones. The words sink into you, soft as falling snow. You close your eyes, and something inside the Room of Sleep shifts gently, like a curtain moving aside to reveal a quiet memory. Suddenly you see, through your mind, not your eyes, a moment from long ago when the 4 founders once gathered in this very chamber. The same way they once gathered in the old classroom. Godric sat with his sword by his side, though he looked unusually peaceful, his armor slightly loosened. Rowena held a feather quill but wasn't writing. She simply twirled it thoughtfully, her eyes soft instead of sharp. Helga carried a small tray,
steaming cups of something warm, perhaps tea or honey milk, and placed one before each friend. And Salazar, even he looked different here. His shoulders, normally held stiff with caution, had fallen into a gentle curve. His expression was calm, almost tender, illuminated by the drifting golden lights. No one spoke at first. They simply breathed together. 4 friends, 4 souls tied by vision and burden and hope. Then Rowena spoke softly. "A school as great as this must dream as well." Helga nodded, smiling with the warmth of a hearth. "And its children must sleep in safety." Godric leaned back, letting out a long breath. "Courage grows fastest in rested hearts." And Salazar, in a voice rarely heard so gentle, added, "Wisdom deepens only in quiet minds." The memory fades like warm mist drifting away on a morning breeze, and you are left sitting in the room of sleep, held by an ancient calm that feels older than magic itself. You breathe in again, and again, and again. Slowly, the room tucks your thoughts into silence. The soft memory dissolves completely now, leaving only you and the quiet embrace of the room of sleep. The golden lights drift more slowly, as if they too are settling into slumber, and a gentle pulse passes through the air, like the castle is exhaling after centuries of holding its breath. You remain seated on the cushion, feeling it cradle your body, adjusting ever so slightly when you shift your weight, offering comfort the way an old friend would adjust a blanket over your shoulders. And then, from somewhere above you, perhaps the rafters, perhaps the night sky itself, a new whisper drifts downward, softer than a sigh. It doesn't form words at first. It is simply a sound, a soft like a lullaby hummed by the earth. Your shoulders grow heavier, your thoughts slow into smooth, unbroken rivers. And as you sink deeper into that stillness, the room reveals something else, a quiet corridor hidden inside your mind, a place where every hallway of Hogwarts seems to merge with your own inner world. The room of prayer, the room of memory, and the room of sleep do not exist separately here. They fold into one another like pages in a treasured book. The white walls of the prayer room blend into the silvery curtains of the sleep room. The glimmering memory spheres drift gently above the velvet cushions, glowing softly like drifting moons. You walk, not with your body, but with your awareness, into this inner space, and it feels familiar, safe, as though Hogwarts has built this sanctuary not just inside stone walls, but inside the hearts of all who ever longed for peace. The air here is warm, not in temperature, but in presence. It feels like being wrapped in a memory you never quite lived, yet somehow always belonged to. And then comes a different kind of whisper, this one gentle but steady, like truth speaking directly to the center of your chest. You are allowed to rest. The words vibrate softly, sinking deeper than sound, settling somewhere near your heartbeat. You are allowed to slow down. The golden lights drift closer, circling you slowly, patiently, as though waiting for you to believe those words fully. You are allowed to put your burdens down tonight. A warmth spreads behind your eyes, not tears, but the soft ache of being understood. And as you breathe deeply, the inner rooms melt into one final vision. You see the 4 founders again, but not in memory this time. They stand around you, not fully formed figures, but warm shapes of light. Godric stands at your left, a faint red-gold aura around him, the hue of fire kept in check. Rowena stands at your right, wrapped in cool moon-blue light, her presence steady and thoughtful. Helga stands behind you, her golden glow soft and round, like sunlight reflected in honey. And Salazar stands before you, surrounded by a deep emerald radiance, calm, unthreatening, quiet as a still lake. They do not speak at first. They simply stand there, surrounding you the same way they once surrounded their students, offering presence instead of instruction. Then the lights shift slightly, and 4 voices, quiet as drifting feathers, begin to speak together, blending into one unified whisper. You are safe here. A breath, a pause. You are cared for. Another breath, another pause. You may rest now. The moment the last phrase melts into the air, the 4 lights begin to slowly fade, retreating into the golden fireflies above you. But instead of feeling alone, you feel fuller, like the warmth they brought remains tucked beneath your ribs. And when the room returns to its gentle dimness, the cushion beneath you softens even further, almost cradling you. The silence deepens, but in the way a song deepens when the final note lingers. The air tastes like calm. The room feels like a heartbeat, and everything inside you begins to loosen. Your breath becomes slower, your chest rises and falls like ocean waves beneath a sleeping moon. Your thoughts drift the way leaves float on gentle water, and the castle seems to whisper one final blessing through the drifting lights. Sleep comes to those who welcome it. You take one more slow breath, then another, and another, and the room of sleep holds you completely, tenderly, endlessly, until the world around you fades into the softest, deepest rest. Night settles over Hogwarts in the most ancient way, slipping gently into every corridor, every stone archway, every forgotten staircase that still remembers the footsteps of those who once built this place. And as the stars gather above the towers, the castle feels as though it is inhaling slowly and exhaling even more slowly. Its breath soft, old, steady, like the rhythm of something that has been alive for 1,000 years. Tonight, the story drifts deeper into the kind of silence only a place with memory can hold. Because even though the 4 founders have long since fallen into their final rest, their spirits linger in ways no spell could fully describe. They sleep, yes, but their sleep is woven into the castle itself, tangled gently into its shadows, its staircases, its sunlight, its whispering halls. Godric Gryffindor rests in the chamber he once called his own, the room where he hung his armor at the end of countless days filled with courage and fire. His golden hat, light as the breath of dawn, rests beside him, carrying the last echoes of every brave choice he ever made.
And even in slumber, the warmth of his courage spreads outward like ripples on a calm lake. It touches the stone walls, the wooden beams, the gentle air. It hums quietly in the background like a soft ember glowing beneath the ashes. Far above him, Rowena Ravenclaw sleeps in the heart of her library. A book lies open beside her, its pages caught mid-thought, mid-wisdom, mid-breath, exactly where her eyes had drifted closed. The ink seems to shimmer faintly as though her dreams continue reading where she left off. Her mind, ever so brilliant, drifts through constellations of ideas even in sleep. And each soft exhale she takes seems to fall across the shelves like a blessing, keeping the books calm and patient and ready to teach those who seek truth. And deep below, wrapped in the lingering warmth of the castle's kitchens, Helga Hufflepuff rests in the place she loved most. The scent of baked honey bread still lingers softly in the air, as though her kindness has soaked into every brick, every pot, every wooden spoon. Her dreams are gentle, full of hearthlight and laughter and the quiet joy of taking care of others. Even in sleep, her presence feels like a warm blanket draped over the entire school. And near the northern lake edge, where the moonlight glides across the water like silver silk, Salazar Slytherin sleeps in a quiet chamber carved into the stone. The water outside ruffles softly, whispering long, ancient stories against the shore. His dreams are deep and slow and quiet. They settle like green mist over the surface of the lake, blending with the night in perfect harmony. And though his nature was different from the others, more private, more introspective, the peace he finds in the depths of rest spreads outward like a calm tide, touching the castle with a hush of stillness. Together, their four resting spirits breathe a quiet life into Hogwarts, forming a pulse that moves through the castle like a gentle heartbeat. You can feel it now if you listen. The soft thrum beneath the stones, the slow rise and fall of air in the hallways, the warmth lingering in the walls. Hogwarts is sleeping, not in darkness, but in peace. And as you imagine these four ancient souls resting, dreaming, the castle folds itself around you as though you too are meant to be part of its timeless slumber. You are not separate from this place. You are held by it. You are welcomed by it. And as the night deepens, Hogwarts breathes once more, slow, steady, serene, inviting you to rest the way its founders rest, fully, gently, without fear.
The castle continues to breathe around you, its presence soft as wool, as if the ancient stones themselves are whispering old lullabies to anyone who wanders these halls at night. And as you listen, you realize that Hogwarts does not simply contain the founders, it remembers them. Their rest is not the silence of endings, but the gentle pause at the center of an endless story. The air grows warmer as you imagine Godric's chamber once more. His golden hat sits by the bedside, catching the faint moonlight, gloating just enough that it seems to pulse with the memory of bravery. In his sleep, Godric does not dream of battles or roaring courage. Instead, he dreams of small acts of bravery, of first-year students taking their first uncertain steps into the great hall, of quiet moments when fear is faced alone, of trembling hands finding strength they never knew they had. These gentle dreams wrap around him like a soft, warm shield. They drift outward, weaving themselves into the hearts of those who feel unsteady, reminding them that courage does not need to be loud to be real. And high in her tower, Rowena turns slightly in her sleep, as though reaching for a thought that continues to glow in her dreaming mind. Pages flutter softly around her, not from wind, but from memory, from ideas she is still discovering even now. Her dreams are not rigid or sharp, but fluid, like ink dissolving into water. She walks through landscapes made of starlight and parchment, exploring questions without needing to answer them. In sleep, she teaches the castle to stay curious, to stay open, to let its wisdom grow and shift like constellations moving across the night sky. Down in the warm kitchen, Helga's chest rises and falls in a rhythm that feels like home. In her dreams, she stirs pots that emit soft golden light instead of steam. She kneads dough that glows with tiny sparks, each spark a smile she once gave to someone who needed comfort. She imagines long tables filled with warm laughter, plates that refill themselves with kindness, and fireplaces that never burn out. Her dreams drift softly into the walls and floors, soaking into the school like warmth soaking into winter-chilled hands. And by the still lake, Salazar sleeps with one hand resting lightly on the stone beside him, as though listening through the ground. In his dream, he walks along the lake's edge, the surface glowing in colors only dreams can create. Deep green, soft silver, muted blue. The merfolk sing low melodies beneath the water, their voices vibrating through the lake bed into his bones. His dreams are quiet but profound, like deep water holding reflections the world rarely notices. Even sleeping, he teaches the castle to value thoughtfulness, to honor stillness, to carry depth without the need to speak of it. And as all four founders dream, each in their own way, the entire castle draws their peace into itself. The hallways grow heavier with calm, as though the air is thickening with comfort. The portraits sleep, the staircases rest, even the shadows stop shifting. A rare kind of silence settles, a silence so gentle it feels alive. You can feel it now, that silence, wrapping around you, resting on your shoulders like a soft cloak made of dusk and memory. And then Something quiet stirs inside the castle's heart. It is not a sound, not a movement. It is simply the awareness that you too are part of this night. The 4 founders sleep. The castle sleeps. The students sleep. And slowly, as you breathe in and out, you begin to align your rhythm with theirs. Your heartbeat softens. Your thoughts drift further apart, like feathers floating down a stairwell. And for a moment, just a moment, you feel the same peace that touched their ancient dreams. Hogwarts is not watching you, it is holding you. And in that embrace, the night deepens, becoming softer than velvet, warmer than candlelight, steadier than any charm. You are not just here, you belong.
The deeper the night grows, the more Hogwarts settles into a stillness so complete that it feels almost sacred. The moon hangs above the towers like a patient guardian, casting pale silver across the rooftops, touching each window with a soft glow. Inside, the castle's long breath continues, slow, steady, ancient, wrapping every hallway, every bed, every dreaming mind in a blanket of quiet warmth. And somewhere within that hush, you begin to feel the presence of the founders, not as distant legends, but as gentle echoes resting right beside you. Godric's courage drifts through the air like a warm ember floating past, humming softly in the dark. It doesn't ask you to rise or fight or push forward. It simply reassures you that your heart is stronger than you think, and that even now, as sleep begins to pull you closer, your bravery is still here, quiet but unwavering. Rowena's wisdom follows behind, cool and soft as moonlit air. It does not question you, nor seek to challenge your thoughts. It merely encourages your mind to loosen, to let the tight knots of your day unwind, to stop searching for answers and instead rest in gentle curiosity, the kind that asks nothing, demands nothing, only whispers, "You may rest now." Helga's kindness settles over you next, warm and golden, as if she has placed a comforting hand upon your shoulder. Her presence does not fade with time. It expands, filling the space around you with the gentle reassurance that you are safe, that you are cared for, that you are allowed to soften into the night without fear. And finally, Salazar's quiet depth settles at your feet like calm water. His presence does not overwhelm. It steadies you, grounds you, reminds you that stillness is not emptiness, but a home, a place where thoughts can dissolve, where the mind can drift without direction, without pressure, without need. These 4 presences weave themselves around you slowly, forming a cocoon of ancient comfort. The castle senses it and responds. The floorboards sigh gently, as though sinking deeper into rest. The portraits nestle into their frames, their painted eyes softening as even their dreams begin to blur. The chandeliers dim their last sparks of magic, and Hogwarts, in its entirety, falls into the same deep, endless quiet you now share. Outside, the wind brushes the windows with soft fingertips, humming an old lullaby older than the school itself. The lake glimmers faintly, a ribbon of silver breathing in rhythm with your chest.
The forbidden forest hushes its leaves, letting the night cradle its creatures. Everything is folding into sleep. Everything is drifting. Everything is softening. And you are at the center of it all, wrapped in a peace that feels larger than the world, and yet fits perfectly within the space of your breath. Slowly, you imagine the founders settling deeper into their own eternal rest. Godric's golden hat dips slightly, as though nodding to you. Rowena's open book glows faintly, as if her dreams have paused on a page meant for you alone. Helga's warm kitchen fades into a soft golden haze, like candlelight at the edge of memory. Salazar's lake ripples once, gently, then smooths into perfect stillness again. The castle breathes with them, and with you. And in that shared rhythm, Hogwarts seems to whisper one final truth. Not loud, not urgent, but soft enough to melt into your heartbeat. You are safe here. The words drift deeper. You are loved. Deeper still, it is time to rest. Your thoughts grow lighter than feathers. Your breath sinks into an easy, natural flow. Your body loosens as though gravity itself has softened. And the night, wide and deep and endlessly gentle, gathers you into its arms. Hogwarts watches nothing now. It simply holds you, like a sanctuary carved out of time, until your mind slips past the final edge of waking. Slow, soft, peaceful. Sleep finds you the way dawn finds the horizon. Not suddenly, not loudly, but inevitably, completely, tenderly. Welcome to your rest.
And now, as the last whispers of Hogwarts drift into silence and the night folds itself gently around you, feel how every story, every memory, every ancient heartbeat has softened the air until it feels almost like a cradle. The founders sleep, the castle sleeps, and slowly, tenderly, it invites you to join them. Let the weight of the day melt away, dissolving like mist fading into moonlight. Let your thoughts loosen, drifting farther, softer, quieter, until they become nothing more than gentle ripples in a faraway dream. You have walked the halls of Hogwarts tonight, walked beside the courage of Godric, the wisdom of Rowena, the kindness of Helga, the depth of Salazar. And now those quiet gifts settle into you, becoming part of your breath, your stillness, your rest. The world can wait until morning. For now, there is only this moment, this warmth, this peace, this breath. Sleep is not leaving the world behind. Sleep is returning to the softest part of yourself. So let your body sink, let your thoughts fade, let your dreams rise like slow, gentle starlight. Hogwarts is here, peace is here, you are safe, you are held. And as the night deepens into its quietest hour, sleep takes your hand and leads you softly, deeply, lovingly into rest.